So once again, I'm Megan Reddick. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Trans-Canada Trail. And the Trans-Canada Trail is the world's longest trail. And there's 29,000 kilometers from coast to coast to coast, made up of water routes and land routes. And it's just a remarkable, beautiful country that we have here. And we have some fabulous panelists that are going to come and join us on stage right now. Come on, join us. So we're going to hear from each of these speakers, and we're going to have 7 minutes for each of the speakers to share their unique story of their trail section. They're going to talk about how it's managed, the way it's used, why you should visit, and what makes their trail truly exceptional. We're going to be starting in the east and working our way west. So buckle up for a coast-to-coast adventure. Our first speaker will be Bryson Guptill, right here, representing Island Trails and the Island Walk of Prince Edward Island, where the trails offer a scenic mix of coastal beauty and rural charm. Then we're going to head to the shores of Ontario's Great Lakes, where we'll hear about the Great Lakes Waterfront Trail from Marlaine Koehler. After that, we'll move north, where Marc Johnson will tell us about Les Raquetteurs de Thunderhouse Falls in northern Ontario. Then we'll make another stop around the Great Lakes, and Kirsten Spence will share her expertise about the Group of 7 Lake Superior Trail. Next, we're headed to the prairies, where Pat Rediger will represent Saskatchewan trails and all they have to offer. And our final stop is in Alberta, where Peggy Holroyd will introduce us to the spectacular trails of the Kananaskis region of Alberta parks. Now that you're acquainted with our speakers, I will ask all the speakers to leave the stage now, and I'm going to pass the mic to Bryson to get us started. Big round of applause for our speakers.
Well, this is a wonderful privilege to be here and to speak to you. I'm very excited about giving you a little bit of a snapshot of both Island Trails, which is an organization I've belonged to for 20-odd years, and also something that Island Trails has created called the Island Walk. And you'll see this map in front of you. The map actually shows the Trans-Canada Trail as it exists in Prince Edward Island. And you can see that it's not only long, but it's also wide. There are lots of segments to it. When we were working with the Trans-Canada Trail and developing trails in Prince Edward Island, we realized the old rail trail had potential to cover a lot of the island, but we needed a trail that went around the circumference. And it's around the circumference that the Island Walk, the idea generated from the Island Trails. Now, how did we start this Island Walk? We first of all modeled it on the Camino Francais, the Camino de Santiago that exists from France into Spain, 800 kilometers, and it's a long walk. It takes a little over a month. We did the walk in 2016, and then in 2019, we were bitten by the long-distance hiking bug, and we did another long-distance walk in Portugal, the Rota Vincentina. And I was convinced that that trail, which doesn't have a lot of walkers yet, probably about 2,000 a year, had potential to promote the idea of doing a long-distance walk around Prince Edward Island. And that's what we set about doing. So creating the Island Walk, we got some friends together. They were all Camino pilgrims. We had a lot of PEI residents who have done the Camino at one time or another. And so we got 4 of us together, and we mapped out a route that would around the circumference of Prince Edward Island and set to work to walking. The Island Walk route is 700 kilometers, and so it's almost the same length as the Camino. 50% of it is the Confederation Trail, which is the Trans-Canada Trail in PEI. 25% of it is red dirt roads. So think about Anne of Green Gables, the sort of place that Anna would have walked. and also 25% the shoulder of secondary roads around the island, with a number of alternate beach walks that make it the 700 kilometers. The 32 waypoints are the 32 nights that we spent walking on the trail, and we averaged about 20 to 25 kilometers a day, and that was our route. And now this is as it turns out, today is the anniversary of the day we set out on the island walk 5 years ago. Since then, we've had a lot of people doing the walk. We've passed over 1,000 now that have done some or all of it, and it keeps growing every year. Last year we had over 500 walking the route, and we've had a number of highlights starting in 2024. We've turned it into, some people wanted to run the route, so we did a run on the route. 71 participants for that. We've been trying to build the more accommodations along the route, especially ones that are quite similar to albergues in Spain. So humble, but very nice, as you can see from this picture. And that's essentially our story. I wanted to just make a special acknowledgement while we're here that our most senior walker walked in June this year, and she's from Ottawa, and she joined us today. So Betty, you can step up and make a little curtsy if you want to, but Betty Hope Giddens. Now, not only did Betty walk the island walk in June, all 700 kilometers, all 32 days, but she identified, as you may have noticed from the Ottawa News, CBC, a few months ago, that she noticed there was a lack of benches on the walk. We've been worried about the route, but we hadn't actually got around to making very many benches. So she thought there was a need for more benches, and she and her friends, largely from her church, Parkdale United Church, have now donated 25 benches to the island walk. With, I'm sure, many more to come as people learn more about the benches on the walk. So thank you, Betty, and thanks to your bench donors. We're scrounging now to find bench guardians in PEI and to get them placed, and we'll hope to have them in place before the winter. We have currently walkers from New Zealand on the island walk. We have walkers from upstate New York participating in the island walk, and we have a very chatty pair of who call themselves the Chunky Trundlers from Ireland, who are posting videos every day. So if you happen to go to YouTube, you will see the drone footage from this happy pair from Ireland who are having a delightful trip on the island walk in Prince Edward Island. So thanks so much for your time, and it's a pleasure to talk to you about the island walk.
Hello. The 5 Great Lakes hold the world's largest supply of fresh water. They are an essential part of a massive regional economy, the source of drinking water for more than 40 million people in 2 countries, and provide amazing recreational opportunities for citizens and visitors. They are an invaluable resource and a global treasure. And they inspired the logo for our trail. The Great Lakes Waterfront Trail features a bird, leaf, fish to signify where sky meets land and touches water, the waterfront, where we connect to this magnificent inland sea and can see the impact of how we plan and treat our watersheds. Our charity evolved from a Royal Commission on the Future of the Toronto Waterfront, established in 1988 and chaired by the Honorable David Crombie. Royal Commissions are investigations into matters of public concern, and the Great Lakes waterfront was indeed a matter of concern. For many decades, we had turned our back on the waterfront, particularly in waterfront cities like Toronto, where the waterfront had been a center for manufacturing and shipping activities. As those activities moved on, they left behind underutilized, unattractive brownfields with little public access. The Commission, that spent 3 years studying the matter, delivered 83 groundbreaking recommendations, leading to major change in waterfront and watershed planning. One of those recommendations was the creation of a waterfront trail, an idea that came from hundreds of individuals who used the Commission's hearings to demand more for the Great Lakes and the waterfront. People were frustrated with short-sighted land use development decisions, the lack of public access to the water's edge, and the poor water quality. But they also had a vision for what they wanted: a healthy, vibrant waterfront that was clean, green, connected, affordable, usable, diverse, open, attractive, and accessible. We call them the 9 waterfront principles. And why not, they challenged, connect the natural and cultural spaces along the shore to create a trail set within a greenway. The trail would represent and redefine our relationship to the lakes. It would be a way to connect the public to land use decisions and their consequences and to the ecological imperatives facing the waterfront. Most importantly, the trail would become the first step in a strategy to regenerate the Great Lakes waterfront and its watershed. Today, nearly 30 years later, it stretches 3,600 kilometers from Quebec to Sault Ste. Marie. It connects 170 communities, including 5 First Nations, all 4 of Canada's Great Lakes, 4 UNESCO biospheres, over 600 parks, 266 beaches, and 106 protected areas. Investments large and small continue to advance the work of achieving the legacy goal of a dedicated trail as close to the water's edge as environmentally feasible, that contributes to the ecology, economy, and quality of life for each community. And thanks to a broad array of partners and supporters who have embraced the vision, including Trans-Canada Trail, that recommendation is becoming a reality. I'm going to give you 2 examples. We are reaching beyond our border to connect to a network of trails on the American side of the Great Lakes via the Gordie Howe International Bridge. The bridge links the cities of Windsor, Canada, and Detroit, USA. Thanks to community advocacy, the bridge has pedestrian and cycling infrastructure that is designated as part of the Trans-Canada Trail, the Great Lakes Waterfront Trail, the Iron Bell Trail, and the Great Lakes Way. Together with regional tourism organizations, the trail partners are creating bi-national trail experiences to showcase the natural and cultural heritage of the Great Lakes. And my second example, in the late 19th century, engineers pushed the Don River, which flows into Lake Ontario just east of Toronto's downtown, into a 5-kilometer linear canal. The marsh at its mouth was infilled for industry, and the river was forced into a right-angle exit to the harbor. The Commission's final report had contained a visionary case study titled Healing an Urban Watershed, the Story of the Don River, that described a plan to restore the mouth of that river. The vision is unfolding through the remarkable work of Waterfront Toronto, the City of Toronto, and its partners. The project is a bold, fascinating, and gratifying demonstration of how we can repair historic damage to our natural spaces and reinvent our urban areas to work with nature. The trail provides a spectacular experience to all who travel along it, and I can confidently say this because for the past 16 years, we've hosted one of Ontario's top cycle tours, the Great Waterfront Trail Adventure. The annual ride's fully supported. It tracks peoples between the ages of 16 and 18 from all over North America. We take 7 days, feature a 500 to 600 kilometer section of the trail, and for most, it is an eye-opening experience, receiving the warm hospitality from communities, rediscovering the beauty of and challenges that face the waterfront. It's proved to be an effective and fun way to keep our community partners and the public connected to the ambitious vision, because you need the public connected to the vision if you are going to secure the investments needed to do those big, bold projects. So there are moving moments on the ride, like sitting with the elders at the Serpent River powwow grounds, visiting the Mining Museum in Bruce Mines or the Art Gallery in Blind River, receiving a welcome from a hotelier who's a new Canadian, and of course, dipping your toes in the water, stretching your gaze across the vastness of the lake as you bask in a sense of wonder and gratitude. The trail furnishes us with a way to interact with nature's treasures and connects us to countless stories, both past and present, but also the future. As you experience the trail, you can't help but see the potential of this special place where land touches water and want more for it and want to be part of its protection and renewal. As the trail steward, one of our jobs is to ensure that each generation of professionals, advocates, champions, and trail users contribute to the legacy that was inspired first by people, to bring the trail closer to the water's edge, protect public access, advocate for design excellence, support conservation and habitat projects, celebrate cultural heritage, and develop new ways to enjoy and experience the trail and appreciate the waterfront, all to contribute to the wellness and vibrancy of our ecology, economy, and quality of life. Thank you.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I've been having a lot of fun this week. Met a lot of cool people. There's still a day left, but I just want to thank Trans-Canada Trail for putting this on. It's been awesome, and it's not over yet. So my name is Marc Johnson. It's an honor for me to be here today to be amongst like-minded trail enthusiasts introducing our Thunderhouse Falls Snowshoe Trail. It's a linear trail, meaning it's a 10-kilometer adventure into the falls, shown here, and 10 kilometers back out to the trailhead for a total of 20 kilometers. Some initially find that distance a little daunting, but with this destination in mind, almost all who start it finish it. And many admit it was not the challenge they thought it would be. And I'll add, it's nowhere near as daunting as the 7-minute timer I'm staring at right now, right here up front. The trail is located in northeastern Ontario near the town of Hearst, which is surrounded by the vast, endless expanses of the boreal forest. It's about a 12-hour drive northwest of Ottawa, first along Highway 17 to North Bay, then north on Highway 11 up to Hearst. Our town of Hearst is a Francophone community of about 6,000 and is enriched by the three cultures of First Nations, French, and English. Its economy is largely based on the forest industry, but also depends on the tourists that come to the area to hunt, fish, camp in the 3 surrounding provincial parks, travel the many rivers we have, skidoo, and hike our trails, which include our Thunderhouse Falls Snowshoe Trail. Now, you won't see this when you snowshoe our trail into Thunderhouse Falls, but you will see it in the spring after all the snow melts and the Missinaibi River swells its banks. This is why it is such an iconic place to visit, whether you've paddled there in a canoe or walked in on snowshoes. This river is designated a Canadian Heritage River because of its rich First Nations history, which dates back thousands of years, and more recently the Voyageur fur trade history, which dates back a few hundred years. It is also one of the few waterway parks in Ontario's provincial parks network, and many do paddle it where it ends in Moosonee on the James Bay coast. I also wanted to show you this photo because in the foreground is a dear departed friend, Fred Negan, who was a well-respected First Nations Cree elder. He first showed me this spiritual place over 40 years ago, and I spent many hours with him here and even more hours paddling the Missinaibi to get there. Though he is no longer with us, his spirit is. And every time I return, I feel him and remember the many stories he told me of being born along the river, trapping, hunting, fishing, and guiding. The Missinaibi River flowed through Fred's veins. So by showing the previous photos of Thunderhouse Falls, you get a real feel for just how much the Missinaibi River fluctuates through the seasons, which here is over 10 meters. Now, if you long for a winter trail that winds its way through a mature boreal forest shrouded in a blanket of at least a meter of snow, in the dead of winter or even early spring, the Thunderhouse Falls Snowshoe Trail is for you. It truly is a winter wonderland. The forest that you snowshoe through is actually over 100 years old and evolved after a huge forest fire in 1903 that consumed the forest that was there previously. This even-aged forest that replaced it is composed mainly of black spruce, white spruce, balsam fir, white birch, and trembling aspen, shown here in the photo. Our trail is generally flat and only changes as it traverses a few rock outcrops, and here through a stand of trembling aspen as you approach the Missinaibi River. This section of the Missinaibi River is also where the landscape transitions from the rocks of the Canadian Shield down into the Hudson Bay lowlands as it continues to flow north to James Bay. The Hudson Bay lowlands not only mark the end of all this rock, but the end of the extensive boreal forest tree line. Many have heard about Thunderhouse Falls, but not many have been there. This trail allows for some of those to realize that dream on snowshoes. Many enjoy the trail alone or with their partner or friend, but as the old saying goes, the more the merrier. Taking a break to enjoy the many bilingual interpretive signs we have along the way not only gives you a chance to have a snack and rehydrate, but also learn about the local flora and fauna as well as some First Nations history. The town of Hearst, through its tourism committee, is very supportive of our trail and provides funding for this signage and trail markers, as well as to attend functions like this. And there are many local volunteers who step up to help with any trail maintenance. Whoops. Excuse me. Over the 8 winters now that the trail has existed, there have been some large groups that have done it, and all there are over 1,000 that have enjoyed the trail, including many that have done it multiple times. With our trail increasing in popularity, we're seeing users not only from all parts of Ontario and Quebec, but also other countries like Africa, Spain, and England. The trail is also an incredible opportunity for students to spend a day in the School of the Great Outdoors and escape the classroom for a challenge they will never forget. Working with similar-aged First Nations teens as trail instructor in the Summer for Trans-Canada Trail in partnership with Outland Youth Employment Program, I also see the huge benefit of connecting this younger generation to the natural environment around them. This is a wonderful win-win partnership that also takes place in part in Ontario provincial parks and combines working on upgrading their infrastructure while allowing First Nations youth to gain knowledge in trail maintenance, layout, and interpretive sign creation. Now, in this short time, it's impossible to tell you the whole story of our trail, but hopefully I've managed to sow a seed of curiosity to find out more. I encourage you to check out our Facebook page titled Les Raquetteurs de Thunderhouse Falls, which from French to English translates to Thunderhouse Falls Snowshoers. Chat it up with me in the corridors, or even better yet, by joining us on the trail someday soon. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kirsten Spence, and I'm the project coordinator for the Group of 7 Lake Superior Trail System in Marathon. So I wanted to tell you a story about revitalizing a small town on the north shore of Lake Superior through tourism trail development. How many people have been to Marathon? I mean, Ontario, not Florida, right? So, so I hope everyone puts driving the North Shore of Lake Superior on your must-live list, because it really is truly spectacular. So our project connects Pakasaw National Park to Naze Provincial Park. We currently have 42 kilometers of single-track hiking trail. We're part of the Trans-Canada Trail, and we're also part of the Voyageur Trail. Our project is in partnership between the town of Marathon and Beektagon and Anishinaabe, and originally started as out of both of those communities' economic development offices. We're typically structured like many Canadian trail organizations are. We're a not-for-profit, depend on grants and programming and events for revenue generation. And we have a volunteer board of directors, various committees, and myself as a part-time coordinator. We are a bit different in the fact that we do have a paid trail crew and for maintenance and operations, and typically their contracts run to 3 to 4 months every season, so we don't solely rely on volunteers for trail maintenance. So Marathon captured on canvas. So originally the group of 7, they were Canadian landscape painters whose works hang in many prestigious art galleries and museums around the world. The National Gallery here has quite an extensive collection of the group of 7. And they strive to create a different Canadian style of art from the pastoral kind of European landscapes that were popular in that era. They painted in the Marathon area between 1921 and 1928, and we've located about 180 painting sites between Marathon and Naze Provincial Park. Not all 7 of the members made the trek from Toronto to Marathon, which was called Peninsula Harbour at that point, but 5 did, and with Lauren Harris coming every year because he usually bankrolled the trips. These are just some of the paintings that were captured along the trail. The Group of 7 trail will connect, and the hikers to most of these locations. We're using Bluetooth beacon technology and an app we've developed to create an interpretation program that will include images of the paintings and sketches from that particular location, facts about the artists, as well as other historical stories and their impressions of Lake Superior. The forest is regrown across the North Shore as it was extensively burned by forest fires in the 1910s, but today the light reflects off Lake Superior exactly the same way as it did 100 years ago. Even non-artists like myself can't help but be moved by the views and the light. Have you ever stood somewhere and felt like you're the luckiest person ever to stand there to see that? That's this trail. I know I'm a little biased, but come prove me wrong. So, our trail crew are our ambassadors for the trail, and they work really hard every season to maintain the existing trail, including signage, as well as build any new sections that we acquire the permits as we go. As you can see from the photos, this really is the best office in the world. Our other goal is to create a center of excellence for trails on the North Shore with hands-on instruction in trail building, planning, and interpretation. We are relaunching a professional trail micro-credential program through Confederation College and its satellite campus in Marathon, and in partnership with the Ontario Trails Council. And it'll have modules on trail stewardship, trail management, trail planning and design, and Indigenous trail planning. And I'd be happy to provide more information to anyone who's interested about that accreditation program later. We're launching it in January. These are some of the projects we've completed. Although our trail is mostly rugged single track with little infrastructure, we've upgraded some sections to be more accessible for a wider range of visitors. Our major project this summer was building an 80-foot staircase down a steep slope of trail to an amazing waterfall called Mink Creek Falls. This allows people with some mobility issues, kind of hips and knees, to be able to get down to that site again. As most trail development projects move at a glacial pace, obtaining permits from Ontario Ministry of Transportation, 2 departments in fact, roughly took me a year, but we're also partnering with our local high school woodworking shop to use their CNC machine to fabricate all the donor recognition panels for each stair riser. So it really is a community project. Is it working? Yes. We are becoming a destination tourism attraction for people who are seeking new hiking adventures. Through data collection at our local tourism information centers, many visitors are coming specifically to hike the Group of 7 trail. We're seeing a lot of artists who love seeing the Group of 7's work and are staying multiple days and reinterpreting those landscapes in their own style. their own group of 7 pilgrimage of sorts. We're seeing more art painting trips being organized from other areas in Canada to hike and paint these historic vistas. But we're also seeing many hikers who just want to immerse themselves in the spectacular landscape that we call Lake Superior. We've also developed a supportive business program where signage indicates that that business supports the trail, has trail information, and staff knowledgeable to answer any questions about the trail. On the signs, there's a QR code, and it shows that people are visiting from across North America and also have higher numbers of visitors from France and Germany. Using very conservative numbers in 2023, the trail generated over $130,000 of new revenue into Marathon's local economy, which is pretty amazing for a small town of 3,300 people. Our challenges are similar to other trail organizations in regard to seeking funding, building trail in a rugged landscape, but also having enough accommodation to support visitors. We had 2 new hotels that were recently built. We're looking at different accommodation offerings, including a hut-to-hut hiking experience along the length of the trail. They're estimating Marathon's population to double in the next 5 years as there's a new mine opening in the area. And we've conducted a number of resident and visitor surveys, and the residents are very supportive of this project. And the town and the hospital actually promoting the recreational opportunities of the trail as a way to attract new residents and professional services. We still have about 15 to 20 kilometers of trail to build, but we're already seeing the benefits of trail development in our small town and spilling out into the region. And we look forward to having you come and experience for yourself the splendor of Lake Superior and the Group of 7 Lake Superior Trail. Thank you.
So I'm not actually going to show you a lot of pretty pictures in my presentation. It's not necessarily about, I mean, it's a very scenic part of our province, but our talk is more about the toilets and how we put toilets in along the Churchill River. So it's a toilet talk I'll give you today. So yeah, toilets are certainly a very important aspect of trail building. So I'm with the Saskatchewan Trails Association. We're responsible for the growth and development of trails in the province. We work with the provincial government on a lot of different projects, so it's not unusual for us to get a phone call from the provincial government, to talk about the different trail issues in the province. And that's kind of how this project started. I got a call from Joe Milligan, who's with the Ministry of Parks in Saskatchewan. He's actually an ex officio on our board of directors. He said, I want to talk to you about the Churchill River. And so the Churchill River is up in northern Saskatchewan. I've actually never been there. It's probably about a 20-hour drive for me to get there, so it's not that easy to get to it. You should also be an avid canoeist or kayaker to access the trail, and I'm probably not that either. But he said, there's thousands of people that come up to the Churchill River to use it every year. There's also many Indigenous communities that use the Churchill River as a means of transportation up there because there's not an awful lot of roads. Now, the trouble is when you get thousands of people coming each summer, there's not an awful lot of toilet facilities up there. And so like a place like Barker Island, on any given night in the summer, there'll be 100 people living there or camping out overnight there, and there's no toilet. So over time, that ends up being a bit of a problem. So he says, the government's looking at this. We think it's serious. We want to start doing something about it. So they started doing some research. So they started doing some research on various composting toilets you could put up there. It certainly is an issue because, you're drilling right into bedrock. It's not easy to put toilets up there, but they did some research, and we think, that we've got the solution. There's these composting toilets we're going to put in place. The Parks Department has the resources to actually helicopter these toilets into place in remote areas, and that's what they did. They put one at Little Stanley, and they put one at Robertson Falls. And so they're pretty optimistic about what they were doing, but they said, can the Saskatchewan Trails Association do a fundraising campaign to put a toilet at Barker Island? So we are actually a charitable organization. We can't issue charitable receipts, so people can make donations to us, and we'll issue them receipts. So I said, we'll give it a shot. I don't know what kind of reaction I'm going to get, but it doesn't hurt to try. So we set it out amongst our network that we're doing this Churchill River Water Trail Legacy Program to try and raise funds to build a toilet on the island. Didn't really get much response until one day I get an email, and it's from GoFundMe. And I kind of, well, what's this all about? So I click into it, and I discover that Churchill River Outfitters, which is in that area, has started a GoFundMe campaign naming the Saskatchewan Trails Association as the beneficiary to build a toilet up in the Churchill River area of Barker Island. And I opened it up, and we had like about $6,000 already in there. So that was nice, but it's a double-edged sword. So we had to raise $20,000, and I've got $6,000. Now, if I don't raise enough money, I got to give the money back. So I'm kind of committed to getting this thing built. And so I guess when you're in that situation, so what do? You kind of turn to volunteers. And we have a pretty good group of volunteers in Saskatoon. So this was their idea, not mine. So they wanted to do a fundraising event in Saskatoon, the Give a Shit event, and apparently a lot of people do give a shit at the end of the day, so. So they worked with a local outdoor store in Saskatoon. You could bring people in to do a presentation, and people would do donations based upon the donation they heard. So we did a presentation there, and it raised some money. And again, a couple of days later, volunteers said, you know, Pat, we should do a raffle, see if we can raise some money for this project. We'll get the prizes, we'll sell the tickets, you print them, and you get a lottery license. So I said, yeah, that sounds good, we'll do all that. So we did a raffle, and that raised a bit more money as well. So the money's starting to kind of trickle in. We're starting to do okay. We did apply for a variety of grant programs from different sponsorships and government agencies. But, you know, we didn't have an awful lot of success. I think we struck out on about 12 different grant applications, which was kind of too bad. But the Saskatchewan Parks and Recreation Association, which is actually our core funder, they gave us a grant, and we were able to do Cree signage for the toilets. So that was a good project for us. And so ultimately, you know, all those dollars and cents started adding up. And so we raised our $20,000. Then the next problem is, who's going to put these things in Barker Island? So it wasn't really in my job description to put a toilet there, so I had to figure out how we're going to do this. We talked to Grandmother's Bay, which is a local Indigenous community there. Their industrial arts program was going to put the toilets in place for us and build a structure that goes around it. Unfortunately, COVID hit, and we were kind of banned from going to the north. The project kind of stalled out for about a year, and then when the restrictions were lifted, we couldn't go back into, the school wasn't prepared to go back and do this project. So again, volunteers came to the forefront. I get a call. Pat, I got 8 guys that are willing to build the facility to put the toilet in. We're going to build it in my backyard. We're going to disassemble it. We're going to ship it out to Barker Island. We'll put it all together. Sounds like a good weekend of fun. So that's what these guys did. They put it all together, and they put the toilet together in Barker Island. And you would think the story would kind of end there, but it was such a big success that other people said, you know, this is a really great idea. So they went ahead and they raised money for 3 more toilets up in Barker Island. So, and again, it was all volunteers that put it together. And I'm actually surprised, you know, that there's still people out there that will cut you a check for $10,000 without blinking an eye, no recognition, say this is just a good thing to support. So we do have those people that still exist out there, and it's amazing how they come up to the forefront when you're looking for help. And so we've got other toilets put in place now, and kind of bring this thing full circle. I was talking with Joe Milligan at the Parks Department. Says, you know, this work in the Churchill River hasn't gone unnoticed. You know, the government's beginning to realize that there is a need for the stewardship of the Churchill River. You guys have proven that people care about this region. So right now, our provincial government is looking at installing 10 more toilets up in the Churchill River. So this project started with a kind of a phone call and really just expanded from there. And so, like, we like to think it's not just a toilet project, it's so much more than just a toilet project.
That was awesome, Pat. I spend a lot of time thinking about human waste and dog waste as well. When I was a kid, I had those Choose Your Own Adventure books. Do you guys remember them? Anybody? Okay. So you would get to about page 10, and you'd get a choice for the main character. Do you take the winding path through the mountains or the river path that was safer but longer? It was so empowering to read those books because it was such a sharp contrast to my own hikes in the mountains with my parents, which usually felt like forced marches. But as I got older, my weekend trips with university friends became more fun because I had the skills to recreate and because I got to choose. So the trail network I want to tell you about today is like a choose-your-own adventure from my childhood. There are many beautiful places in Alberta, but I want to tell you about a local secret. West Bragg Creek is 30 to 40 minutes from the city of Calgary at the edge, and you can go to do a whole variety of activities in all seasons. So horseback riding, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, mountain biking, trail running, hiking, and walk your dog. And every time, barely take the same route, as there are nearly endless combination of trips. To give you a picture of the landscape, as you leave Calgary and head west, you would go through about 30 kilometers of flat prairie before reaching the rolling montane foothills of on the edge of the Rocky Mountains at about 1,400 to 1,700 meters above sea level. It's generally forested with patches of grassland that would be forage for ungulates and in the past for bison. 3 creeks, including Bragg Creek, flow through the area and are tributaries to the larger Elbow River, which supplies a substantial amount of water for the city of Calgary, which has a population of 1.4 million. This is also a cultural landscape, filled with Indigenous stories and traditions that are important for intergenerational cultural transmission through harvesting and ceremony. It's home to the 7 nations in Treaty 7, 3 Blackfoot nations of Piikani, Siksika, and Kainai, the 3 Stoney Nakoda nations of Goodstoney, Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Tsuut'ina First Nations, as well as being home to many Métis people. West Bragg Creek is within Kananaskis country. It's a concept envisioned by the government 46 years ago as a multi-use place where you'd have protected areas, recreation, forest harvesting, natural gas extraction, cattle grazing, hunting, and trapping. And key to this concept of Kananaskis country is that they would not have residential development within it, but rather the surrounding communities would provide the amenities and services for visitors. So West Bragg Creek receives approximately 300,000 visitors per year, with peaks in January and July. 98% of visitors to West Bragg Creek are from Alberta, most within 100 kilometers away. A significant number of users cite West Bragg as a key part of their exercise and recreational routines. In our summer survey, we found that 47% of respondents visit the area at least once or more than once per week. The frequency of use indicates how trails are woven into people's health and well-being. For example, my middle-aged brother, don't tell him I said that, is an example of the many professionals in the Calgary area who works hard during the week, but at 6 o'clock on a weekday, he will head to the West Bragg Creek to go mountain biking with his friends. Another example is my neighbor, a teacher and ultra athlete who organizes training and racing events for all ages. And another friend takes her horse and dog to West Bragg to enjoy solitude and connection to nature. The trail map looks like a spider web. At a distance, there's numerous colors describing the permitted activities by type and by season. The trails are named after nature themes like Moose Line, which is different from Moose Loop, and Mountain Road, which is definitely different from Mountain View and Mountain View West. And the single-track trails have really fun names, as they often do, like Strange Brew, Snakes and Ladders, and the Sugars, Sugar Daddy and Sugar Mama. The level of trail use has grown 350% in the last decade, and this has spurred significant new trail management issues. Some of the trails close to the 400-car parking lot are congested, and people have to stop and step out of each other's way during peak times. The cross-country ski trail often are built on industry access roads. At one trailhead, all activity types have to share the same 300 meters because of a large pond created by beavers that is growing that threatens to submerge the road and which is constrained by the adjacent hill. In winter, it's tough for the ski groomers to get enough snow on the south-facing trails because of the melting from warm Chinook winds, and climate change is likely to make this problem even worse. Other management issues include unauthorized trails, conflict between activity types, the need to minimize human-wildlife encounters. This is bear and cougar country, after all. Despite all these issues, people love these trails. The nonprofit organization Bragg Creek Trails has a cooperating agreement with Alberta's government to manage these trails. The organization began from a small group of local residents to an army of individuals who are passionate about working to keep this area open and accessible for all. In 2021, I started working as a trail planner with the government and Bragg Creek Trails to update the trails plan. A 30-person planning committee led the process to 2 phases of engagement. So the focus of the trail plan was on creating a comprehensive trail system to improve visitor experience while minimizing the impact to the environment. And an opening premise of the exercise was that we would not add significantly more trails, but rather we would be focused on adapting the current network to better address recreation use, reflecting desired experience, and anticipating future demand. The trail planning process took about 3 years and recommends adding 20 kilometers of new trail. The trails were prioritized either because they addressed a safety issue, an environmental issue, reduced user conflict, or created a new experience as long as it didn't conflict with another land use or require disproportionate resources to maintain. Much of the focus of the plan is on operations and management, such as improving the signage and wayfinding, enhancing communication and education with users, clarifying the grooming and maintenance approach based on setting trail management objectives for every trail. The plan also outlines desired condition statements for the trail network as a whole and associated indicators and standards within a monitoring framework. So just like a choose your own adventure book, the West Bragg Creek Trail Network offers visitors an opportunity to craft their own journey. Every time you step out onto those trails, you have the power to choose your own path, whether it's a thrilling mountain bike ride, a peaceful walk, or a moment of reflection in nature. But this story isn't just about personal adventure. It's about cultivating our story and our sense of collective responsibility. The story of trails and trail stewardship at West Bragg is about a love for the outdoors and a desire to preserve it for generations to come. As in the Bragg Creek Trail's motto, for all outside, every season. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all the presenters. It reminds me just how much I love our country, and thank you for your stewardship and caretaking of the lands in your local section. Just so proud of all of you for all that you do to allow us to have the opportunity to use those trails, and thank you.